happy Mental Health Awareness Month to you, as well as happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Reverend Joselyn Spence, and I serve as the Director of Mental Health and Wellness for the National Benevolent Association of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. We are already sharing where you are joining us from, and for folks who might just be coming into the room, please do continue to share there. Note that as the webinar goes on, you can follow along via automated transcription using the AI-generated captions. And so you can look for that CC button for captions at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You may have to tap on the More tab there, the three dots there. We also will have a question and answer period at the end of our time together, but please feel free to share your comments and your questions during the webinar in the chat there as we are moving through our conversation today. So let me share a little bit about MBA, if this might be your first time joining us. As a general ministry of the Disciples Church, the MBA collaborates with leaders and with health and social service organizations to strengthen and transform communities through compassion, healing, and justice. MBA's mental health and wellness program focuses on creating communities of compassion and care with a vision of wellness that is integrated with a holistic approach centered in justice, equity, theology, spirituality, and clinical awareness. And we're here today for our Mental Health Awareness Month webinar because in recent years, our country has faced, our world even, has faced a whirlwind of challenges, from the global crises of pandemics and violence of all kinds to societal, economic, and political shifts right here in our country, impacting a variety of identities and rights, which has led to increases in mental health challenges. Studies show that there have been increases in anxiety, and we didn't even need a study to know that ourselves, with nearly 1 in 3 people reporting uncertainty directly affecting their mental well-being. And while more people are seeking help for their mental health, barriers like cost and access still stand in the way and continue to increase with the challenges of layoffs, rising costs, and marginalized communities. As these changes continue to impact us, our congregations, and our communities, conversations about navigating change have never been more important than now, which is why our theme for this year's Mental Health Awareness Month is Resilience in Transition, Navigating Change and Nurturing Care. And throughout the month, we are providing resources and opportunities to help you with navigating change in your congregations and communities as we continue to be a movement for wholeness in a fragmented world that is constantly shifting. So today I am pleased to be joined by a panel of wonderful professionals to provide us with faith-based insights and practical mental health and wellness strategies and wisdom on how to be resilient during transitions by nurturing care for ourselves and our communities while we navigate change. Through an engaging discussion, personal stories, this webinar will offer inspiration, tools, and wisdom to empower individuals and communities to embrace change with resilience, compassion, and hope. And before I introduce the panel, let us take a moment to take a breath or 3 together, because centering in our breath is one of the ways that we can navigate change well. And so I invite you, wherever you are, if you are able to close your eyes, please feel free to do so, or find something to gaze at in front of you. And together we'll take a deep breath in through your nose if you're able, and a long exhale through the mouth. Another deep inhale, and a long exhale. Last deep inhale together, and exhale. You can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes and blink your eyes open slowly there. And if you need to continue taking some deep breaths right here, please continue to do so as I introduce our panel today. So first, we have our very own MBA Mental Health and Wellness Program Coordinator, Reverend Cameron Cunningham. Cameron is a dedicated clergy, religious educator, and social advocate with a strong commitment to building faith communities and advancing holistic and social equity. Cameron's work is driven by the belief that faith can serve as a catalyst for creating and nurturing strong, unified communities. He brings exceptional dedication and meticulous preparation, working at the intersection of faith and mental health, as he has collaborated with the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and the National Institute on Drug Abuse to further enhance his expertise in addressing mental health and substance use disorders within faith communities. And Cameron is leading the development of our addiction and recovery initiative. And so he'll have more to share with us in the coming months about how you can be involved in that process. Next, we have Pastor Taulau Tupua, who is a dedicated faith leader and educator with a strong background in youth ministry, interfaith engagement, and community service. He recently served as associate pastor of youth and mission at First Christian Church of North Hollywood, where he cultivated spiritual formation and mission-driven service among youth and young adults. Previously, he served as the Director of Family Ministries at First United Methodist Church of Redondo Beach, developing innovative programs and leading diverse ministry teams. He holds a Master of Divinity from Claremont School of Theology and a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics with a minor in Religious Studies from Chapman University. Next, we have Pastora Rossy Castillo, who is the dedicated pastor of Iglesias Hermandad Cristiana in the Disciples of Christ in Indianapolis. She is a lifelong servant of the church, beginning ministry at a young age and becoming a Sunday school teacher at 10 years old, y'all, and leading various church ministries in her teens. After earning a bachelor's degree in theology, she served as an interim pastor for churches planted by her father. Since moving from the Dominican Republic to Indianapolis, she has held numerous leadership roles, including serving on the General Commission on Ministry and the board of Obra Hispania. Currently, she is the moderator of the Midwest Convention of the Obra Hispania, and she has been honored with the Woman of the Year Award and the Legato Award for her impactful work within the community. And finally, to round out our powerful panel today, we have Reverend Dr. Cedrick Von Jackson, who is a distinguished preacher, poet, speaker, writer, and educator, currently serving as the senior pastor of the historic West Hunter Street Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. He is a summa cum laude graduate of Memphis Theological Seminary and holds a doctorate of ministry focused on rethinking mental health in the African American church. With over 27 years in education, he has been recognized for his leadership as an administrator, teacher, and advocate, serving on the advisory board of Women Preach Incorporated, and contributed sermons and writings to the African American pulpit and the African American lectionary. A passionate author, Pastor J has published 2 poetry anthologies, Following the Breadcrumb Path, Navigating the Journey Toward God, Justice, and Love, and Theoethnomusicology, Volume 1, Nothing But the Blues, which are works that intertwine faith, justice, and the narrative of the blues. He is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and enjoys traveling, skiing, and writing poetry, and has been married to his college sweetheart, Yolanda Willis, for 30 years, and together they share 2 children, a son-in-law, and their beloved dog, Lady. We love dogs over here. And so you all, please, in your own space, clap your hands for your panelists today. And we're going to get started with our first question. What does resilience mean to you, and why is it important now?
So thank you, Joselyn, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share today. So for me, resilience is sacred strength. We know that in our moments of weakness, we find strength in God. So resilience for me is sacred strength. that we use to continue rising. And I may, allude to scripture, throughout. I'm pretty sure I will. But God talks about how we mount up on wings as eagles. And so when I think about resilience, I think of it not only being sacred strength, but strength to rise above. Not because life gets easier, but because there's something in us that God has placed something in us that continues to give us that desire to rise above, to soar above, to refuse to give up. Um, Resilience for me takes the courage to breathe. I'm so glad that you had us participate in the breathing exercise at the beginning, grounding and centering ourselves. So it takes the courage to breathe, even when life is breaking down all around us, when we're burdened. Um, I think about resilience as not having to have it all together, but resilience gives us that ability to honor the struggle that we're going through, to name that struggle, and then to lean on God in the midst of that struggle. And you, in your introduction to the entire this entire discussion, you did a wonderful job of unpacking all of the reasons why uh, resilience is so important right now. We just 5 years ago, 4 years ago, came out of the pandemic. We are relearning how to live with each other and among one another. We know the political climate in which we live here, particularly in the States. We know the climate that is permeating the globe, and so it's going to take resilient souls who can recognize the struggle, and recognize where their strength comes from, even in the midst of the struggle.
I'm sorry, I was muted. My apologies. Thank you for having us here this afternoon. Thank you for your introductions. And let's talk about this resilience. For me, is the ability to recover and grow with through any difficulty, trauma, or difficult situation that arises or come to my life. And as our Dr. Cedrick was saying, the first thing for me is prayer. Prayer is what holds us in place, that plant us and help us to continue and give us the strength to go on. Even when things are piling up against us, um, it's amazing what the prayer can do to us and with us and within us. That is very important. Also have meaningful connections, to have someone which one you can talk to, um, have a friend, a member of your family, a pastor, a mentor, someone that you can go to and work with them. Going through difficult times alone is about to be impossible. But when you trust in the Lord and you are holding on to Him, and you have a village in which one you can confide and trust, you may be a winner, and never forget to breathe.
Thank you. Honored to be a part of this distinguished and esteemed panel today. I will certainly chime in here and say resilience to me is the capability to maintain, to even in some cases recover emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual stability, even amidst much destruction. So for me, I make the clear distinction that resilience is not about avoiding pain or avoiding struggle, but I agree with you, Dr. Jackson. It's about finding strength, finding strength in the midst of pain and struggle, and especially when systems around feel fragile or even unjust. So it's important to our daily lives now when we consider moments of social upheaval, even the layers of uncertainty that we all navigate personally, nationalistically. So the uncertainties, from society to economically to emotionally, resilience is what is keeping us going. It is what is allowing us to press forward in progress and in process. So whether it's individuals, youth, families dealing with trauma, I truly believe that it is resilience that helps to sustain hope and keep moving forward with intention. So I would say, to sum all that up, it's a survival skill and it is a communal practice as well.
Thank you all for having me here. I'm so honored to be a part of this esteemed panel and to speak on this important subject matter. Um, when I think about resilience, I think about the capacity to bounce back and recover from really hard situations. And this can be applied to, like our panel has said so far, individuals, systems, even ecosystems. So in the Samoan culture, we have this phrase called Te Leva, which means caring for the space in between. And there are four categories of care. So there's care for human to human, so the space between two humans. There's care for human to earth, so everything in nature. There's care from human to the cosmos, so human to God. And then there's care for human to self, right? And so I think this form of resilience I think it's important because it takes shape and form in Pacific Islander and Asian cultures all throughout the world. When I think of resilience, it comes in the manifestation of cultural resilience, communal resilience, spiritual resilience, environmental and historical resilience. The reason why I think it's a very important topic and issue at this point in time as a Samoan here living and speaking truth is environmental resilience is a bit of a lifeline for Pacific Islanders in the South Pacific. As climate change continues to take shape and form, the very lands that I call home, that many of Pacific Islanders call home, may disappear within the next 25, 50 years, however that may be. And so it's resilience is something that is life, it's survival. And so it may not be for me here as I live in the United States, but it's something that truly means something, truly hits home for me because it feels like it's an ongoing battle of disappearing things and trying to hold on to things, but also adapt to the changes that are happening as they come.
Wow. Thank you all for those definitions and, sharing some of those pieces that might be helpful as we think about resilience. And I want to thank those who have shared in the comments. I know I saw some comments of people sharing their definitions as well. But as we think about our ability to adapt in the face of adversity or trauma, tragedy, threats, sources of stress that we may all experience on a daily basis, it is important to focus on our resilience and building that because it is a protective factor for our mental health. And some of our panelists have already shared some things that might be helpful in building our resilience and keeping our resilience. So I want to name, some of the things Pastora Rossy named: prayer, meaningful connections. Dr. Cedrick talked about our breath. Pastor Tau beautifully sharing your culture with us of those four categories for care. Cameron sharing some of those pieces of what makes these different levels of resilience so important. So I do want to open to our panel if there are any other ways that you would name that we keep our resilience while we are in transition, right? Because if we're just sitting still, we're in our own spaces, it's kind of, I don't want to say too easy, but it might be easier to engage that care when we're settled, right? Versus when things are constantly happening, when we are constantly on the go. So I want to see if there's anything that you all would like to share around that thought.
Yeah, I'd like to add two pieces to this part of the conversation. Rest and recreation. Um, you know, we talk about resiliency being, that bounce back factor. It's kind of hard to bounce back when you're tired. And so rest, would be one of the major pieces, but also recreation that we don't. Um, Life is so busy with all of the requirements that we have to fulfill, um, and we forget how to have fun. We forget to take the time to do the things that we find enjoyment from or out of. And that's one of the telltale signs of depression, that you no longer find enjoyment from the things or in the things that you used to find enjoyment. But being intentional in reclaiming those things that you used to enjoy. You talked about some of the things, you read some of the things in my bio that I enjoy doing, and as I'm sitting here thinking about that, I'm actually critiquing myself right now, because I'm thinking, when was the last time I wrote a poem, or when was the last time I went skiing? So when was the last time where it wasn't another meeting, it wasn't another counseling session, it wasn't another sermon prep or Bible study prep and those kinds of things, and just resting and doing things that I absolutely enjoy.
That's so good. Yeah.
I would love to add, that is very interesting and very true, Dr. Cedric. But I would love to add, for me, stay rooted in who I am, my identity and my values. No matter what is going on around, I must keep those in front of me and high. Because the minute we lose our identity and our values, our core, for me, I'm lost. And the other thing is very close to Dr. Cedric's idea: give yourself grace. It is okay to say, I'm tired, and take a breath, rest, recreate, go have fun. But we we are being so pushed and told by society that we need to be busy. Oh, it's the badge of honor, busy bee. Uh, that we have to be, especially women, we need to be perfect mom, perfect wife, perfect worker or professional. And there is no such a thing. That is not reality. Something will gonna fall through the cracks if we all in the household don't pitch in, or if we don't have our village to rely on. So it's not a Lone Ranger work. It's a thing for the village, for our community, to provide us support, be there with us, but always knowing who we are, not letting anyone to change that from us. And the worst case, we have to keep our identity and our values.
That's so good, Pastora. Somebody in the comments said, preach, Pastor. And thank you I see this theme here. I see you, Cameron, jumping in, but I see this theme here around community, around, as you said, it's not being a lone ranger, but we have to be with our village. We have to be tapped into our community, which also reflects back to us who we are. Cameron.
Amen.
No, thank you. I mean, that was certainly the point that I was going to make, that resilience is preserved in transition when we stay connected. So I wanted to highlight the power in staying connected to community, the power of staying connected to your purpose. As Dr. Jackson said, the power of staying connected to the practices that keep you anchored. That is very powerful when we consider how disorienting change can be. So I wanted to bring into this space, the power of building rhythms of reflection and leaning into shared community dialogue. And I'm always, looking at how to care for self as I care for others, love self as I love others. So how do I stay committed to self-compassion as a key? Thinking through those things. And I will note that I positively see value in structured routines with grace. So, redefining that routines don't have to be rigid, but can be flexible enough to accommodate the unpredictable nature of change. It's Robert Michael Franklin, past president of Morehouse, professor at Emory University, Candler School of Theology, who said something when I was a student there. He said, "Blessed are the flexible because they'll never be bent out of shape." So just thinking through that and how we preserve resilience by understanding that it's not about perfection, it's about perseverance, and it's about it being okay to stumble as long as you keep, getting up and moving forward.
Wow. Man, I feel like I should be on the other side listening to y'all. This is some powerful stuff coming across these lines. But in response to that, like, yes, definitely leaning into community. Resilience is not something that I believe is faced alone. It's a collective experience. So being able to lean on family, on church, on chosen family and friends, that is vital in order to make it to the other side, at least in my own experience. Another thing that comes to mind is adapting without losing your essence. So transitions often require change, but trying not to abandon your values is something that can or cannot happen. So embrace what's new, but let your decisions be shaped by cultural wisdom. So respect, humility, hospitality, communal care, allowing those to be able to continue to drive you through those changes. And the last thing that comes to mind is practicing storytelling and reflection, sharing those experiences, the joy, the struggles, the pains, and keeping that resilience alive, not just for you, but for those who you are in community with. It builds bridges between generations and it affirms those transitions as part of a longer journey of life. So I feel that that is important and vital as we go through change.
Ooh, all of that is so good. To your point, Pastor Tao, I'm sitting here taking it all in for myself as well. And it's a blessing to be with folks that you can learn from and be inspired by, which I also think is a part of this journey of keeping our resilience, as Cameron said, preserving our resilience, leaning in and taking in what each of us are sharing, especially when you are in these professional roles where everybody on this webinar today is clergy. Everybody on this webinar comes from a marginalized community in the United States. And so for all of us here on this webinar, this panel, there are levels and layers to what it means to be in a public facing role and maintaining your resilience, because people are looking to you to be the most resilient person in situations at times. And as you all said, right, this piece about grace, this piece about resting, this piece about having community that you can say, hey, I can't do it today. Can somebody else take this over for me? So that we don't get to the place of burnout. And when we think about our resilience and what has challenged people's resilience over these past 5 years since the pandemic began, as many people have come to that place of burnout for a variety of reasons. There's been pandemic burnout. There's been burnout because of the way that we've pushed ourselves to do our jobs, or others have pushed us to do our jobs. As Pastora Rossy brought up, the identity of being a woman in this country and what someone expects for you to do. As I mentioned before, all of us coming from the communities that we're coming from and what people are expecting us to look like, or even how we may internalize how we need to show up at times, right? And having that time of reflection, that rhythm of reflection that was mentioned before, for ourselves in those cases, so we can do some readjusting, right? If we never sit back and reflect, if we never sit back, talk to our professional help, right? Or our village about where we are and what we've experienced, we may miss some of those things, which keep us from continuing to build our resilience. So I'm curious from you all, as we've just kind of brought up our communities that we're serving as professionals. I'm curious what aspects of some of the current social changes are impacting those that you serve or your own communities, and how you're ensuring that your responses to those changes, and what's coming up for people continue to center equity, particularly in mental health?
I'll jump in here and begin this element of our conversation. I will say, and I'm sure we'll hear that across many communities, the societal shifts. So the increased injustice, racial violence, economic inequity and disparity, and even harsh political rhetoric and divisiveness has um, exacerbated mental health conditions. And I would even go as far to say amplify trauma and increase substance use, and even created barriers to care in some fashions. So I'll speak specifically to the addiction and recovery space, and specifically to Black and Brown communities. We've seen heightened stress, with inflation and with all those things that I name, housing insecurities. So I would say, to center equity, I believe that it is important to respond, and I have, placed it at the forefront, responding with cultural humility. I see value in lifting up lived experiences and finding the proper balance between theory and lived experience as well. And even in the work that I do and contribute to the teams that I work on, try to be intentional to design programs that are shaped by the voices that are impacted most. So that has been empowering for me, because equity is not just a value; it has to be practiced, and it is shaped by policy, funding, and care delivery as well. So that's what I think about that. And again, I will say, in the work, I see collaboration and partnership so key. So always finding ways to bring into the conversation culturally responsive providers, and integrating community voices in to the work that we design as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
My thoughts about it, and thank you, Cameron, is mental health starts with security. And there is so much insecurity around. We have insecurity of food, economics, where to live. And being the pastor in a church that is planted in one of the most immigrants-based population in the international marketplace in Indianapolis on the west side, where we have so many nations together, we had, as a church, even before I became the pastor, we started working for the community to bring some balance into it. So we support a food pantry in the neighborhood, and our folks go as volunteers. I go myself twice a month to be there, be present, bring the word. You don't know how many prayers in the line of the people coming to get their box of meals we have, because they know me already. I'm a pastor, and they pull me up. Pastor, can you pray? I have this need. Or what is your church? I want to come. So the presence in the community. Also, there is a closet where we donate clothing for families in need and household items. We celebrate Safe Halloween for our children in the community. We hand out hundreds of candy bags in Halloween, so the parents have mental peace that their children will be safe having those candies. We started in January as the church a new program, check in with the community. We invite the people in the community to join us. We have a 3-course meal, free of cost for everyone. We just want the people to relearn, to sit down at the table with the children, not with the phone in the hand, and have a conversation over the table while they are eating. So I am a little bit adamant, no phones allowed to be upside, but upside up facing down, so they can enjoy a conversation. And then we talk about the matters. We try to know each other. And the goal is for everyone in the community to know what is the mechanic that can do this work for a lower price. What is the lady that in an emergency I can call and leave my children safe without paying $10,000 a year for such service? Where is the lady that do the nails for me to look pretty? Stuff like that, to know who are our neighbors and feel safe among ourselves, because we had lost that value. And I think that when we gain that back, and I know why is my neighbor acting this or such way, we will be better, because we will be leveling the field for everyone to be able to enjoy things. The way things are going, we don't know where it will land, where it will end. But having a community where we get that support and everyone knows if there is a need, doesn't have to be publicized or put in TikTok, but somebody discreetly comes and brings some food. That is the work that we need to be doing. And we as a church in this community, I am proud to say my people are awesome, because everyone is engaged on making this work.
That was awesome.
It was. Pastor Rossy, that statement, mental health starts with security, that was strong. Because I mean, and we know all of the things that are going on right now. I mean, and people are insecure. I've had, like Pastor Rossy, I've had some real conversations with some real people, that, you know, I serve an aging congregation. The majority of my parishioners are 60 plus. They are either retired already or they are anticipating retirement, and they're seeing their retirement savings go down the drain. They're worried about what's going to happen with Social Security. They're worried about. I have members, who have spoken directly to and testified that they were one of the ones who got the email that says, "I need you to report 5 things that you did this past week." Um, those are real stories that are happening in my congregation, and so, so much has been said about the communal aspect of what we need to be doing as far as resilience, and that continues to stand firm, or continues to be true. So what I try to do is similar to what Pastor Rossy is doing. I mean, we have to be present for our people. We have to work on developing our skill set as far as empathy is concerned. Walking a mile in the other person's shoes, figuring out why they may not have shoes to begin with. Um, and so there's that empathy piece. There's that piece walking along with your congregation. At our church, we've always had, since I've been here, we've always had a strong emphasis on mental health awareness, trying to break the stigma. And so we have every once a month, the third Sunday of every month, we have, as a part of our normal worship service, we have a moment where we are talking about some specific aspect of mental health, mental wellness, and just, um, if for no other reason, to remind people that the church is a safe place or a safe space where you can have these conversations, where you can, where you don't have to feel that you're all by yourself. Um, and so that's one of the things that we do. We have an upstart food pantry, like Pastor Rossy mentioned, because I mean, our church is situated in the west end of Atlanta. There's already lots of food insecurity here. There's a lot of gentrification here. There's a lot of shelterless individuals that live. I mean, we've had people that sleep out on the porch of our church. And it's just a time of transition where people are wondering, is there hope, and if there is, where is that hope going to come from?
For me, this question delves right into like I guess my interpretation of what equity is. So equity just to me means ensuring that our people are not just included in mental health systems, but that they are centered, that they are affirmed and empowered in their healing journeys, right? And it also means challenging the systems that aren't working for the communities that we're in already, right? So the ways that I intentionally practice this is I try to break stigma with compassion, right? Mental health stigma is very strong in some of our communities. And I respond by using the pulpit as a platform to be able to say, hey, it's real. I go through this. I want to share this journey with you. Um, Even in counseling settings, to be able to share the reality of mental health and normalizing this as much as possible so that it becomes a spiritual and communal life type of situation where rather than an individual who's going through crisis. Um, a- and into that, I think it's important that there's a cultural aspect of this as well. In the Samoan communities, the Samoan vocabulary when it comes to mental health is pretty much zero. So there are no words in the Samoan language that exist that say depression, anxiety, fear, like all of those emotions that come about those realities have no translation for our elders in the community. So being able to advocate and figure out ways to interpret language and not only communicate that to our younger ones who understand English, but also to our elders who've gone through this, who understand those realities, but have no words or vocabulary to articulate what that exactly means. And then the last thing that I think is very important that Pastora Rossy had talked about was safer spaces for youth and elders, not just one or the other. I think in my experiences, there's pockets of community that happen that are getting care, but when we are able to bridge those pockets into a whole experience, healing happens when both are heard and when both are connected. So I love to advocate on behalf of not only the youth that I work with, but also the elders that continue to pour into the cups of them and then vice versa. So.
Yeah, that's so good. And I want to say here, when you mention the youth and the elders, for those who are watching, that NBA gives mission and ministry grants. And this fall, they will be opening up again, specifically for work around older adults and the youth, either or maybe you move forward like Pastor Tau and try to see what might be an intergenerational project that you could work on in your community to assist in the mental health and wellness of your community, as well as building that resilience within your community. As you all have been talking about these communities that you're working in, I'm also curious if there's anything you might be able to share around any common reactions or responses to change that you have seen in your community, and how you have supported those. We've already lifted up a lot of ways that you are supporting your communities. So if there's any other piece that you'd like to add. And I want to say something that's really important about this question is so that people know what those responses and reactions look like to be able to offer the care and the compassion versus thinking that someone is just acting out, right? Or they are not sure what's happening with that person. I think Pastora Rossy, what you said about if we know those in our community, then we can tell when something's different. You know what, that person, they've been as Dr. Cedrick mentioned, those markers of depression, they haven't really been interested in what we're doing lately. And instead of thinking, oh, you know what, this person's no longer interested in working with us, or their feelings have changed about something, it might be this person is having a hard time right now. What might we be able to do to care for them? And so again, if there are any common reactions or responses to change and uncertainty, and how you might have supported those in your context.
I'll go first. Changes are difficult. And we as human beings and as individuals, beautifully created by our Lord, we react to them in different ways. Some people just get anxious. Some people become denials. They don't want to accept that this is going on in their lives, or whatever change is. There is fear, there is resistance, anger. There are many ways for people to react. And we have to start acknowledging the emotions and calling them by name and understanding, yes, I am going through this and I will overcome this. Not staying, not recognizing and saying, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to stay here. No, I'm tired, I'm going to take a breath, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to continue. And then we can offer the ministry of presence. The Lord is everywhere, but we are His feet, His hands, His eyes, His ears for the community. And we are supposed to be present, not a text and say, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Farewell in your surgery today. Or, okay, I know you are traveling and that you are traveling in an emergency back to your country. Have a nice trip, safe travels. No, it's be there. Pray with them. Let them know that they are cared and loved, that we are there. And then give them tools of connection for those that don't have it. We must learn as leaders, we must learn that where is every agency that provides XYZ services? Because our people are in need, and sometimes they don't know, and sometimes sharks out there are taking advantage of them and their situation. So it's not only, hey, call 211 and they will gonna tell you. It's for us to provide, hey, this agency, I know this person can help you. This person can do this for you. And then encourage them to take one step at a time. We don't have to rush. It's difficult. We are not enjoying it, but we can go step by step. So we don't make mistakes and learn and understand why I am in this situation and try to avoid this type of situation or what provoked this situation in the future. And then that's my methodology with my folks and the people that come with their needs and the people that I see struggling. I try to provide for them the tools, the ministry of presence, first of all. Ministry of presence. Give them tools of connection, what to practice. Because sometimes people are so on the go that they look like the little animal that is on the wheel. I forgot the name. That's on the wheel, just going and going and going. We need to give them the tools and for them to understand, I can breathe, I can sing a song, I can make the breathing exercise. I can pray or learn a verse, a Bible verse that encourages you and lifts you up, and work with them in a routine or a ritual, if you want to call it, how to get out or go through on this situation.
That's so good, Pastor Rossy. And as you brought up those verses, I want to invite everybody, as well as you begin to share your response, to also include that piece around the scriptures and spiritual teachings that you all use. I saw you come off of mute, Dr. Cedrick.
Yeah, thank you. So to kind of piggyback off of something that Pastora Rossy said, she mentioned taking one step at a time. And one of the things that we have to honor and recognize is that transition is not it's not a destination. This is a journey that we're on, and it's not it's not an overnight journey. It's a messy journey. It's a difficult journey, and as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about Black liberation theology, thinking about the work of James Cone, and thinking about how that was rooted and grounded in the Exodus story. It's a story about deliverance, but deliverance was not easy. Um, and so we are called to times when we face uncertain times, uncomfortable times, um, and even as I'm thinking about this, the prophet Isaiah says, "Behold, God says, behold, I do a new thing." Right? Newness is transition, but that doesn't. Even though God is doing it, it doesn't mean we always are going to understand what God is doing, and not saying that it's going to be easy. But this newness is a transition, and the new thing, when God speaks, that is being done in a wilderness type situation. And when we recognize that, we also recognize that actually God does God's best work. A lot of God's best work is done in wilderness situations, or in dark situations, or difficult situations. I mean, if we only needed God to show up in the good times, then why would we need God? And so one of the ways that we stay resilient is again to center ourselves in peace, even in the midst of these wilderness situations, even in the midst of these dark situations. Some of the responses that I've seen, of course, we've seen the fear, we've seen hopelessness, helplessness, we've seen the anxiety, but one response that has really surprised me, and this is coming from a historically African American context, is this idea that that the things that are happening in the world right now and in our society and in our political climate, these are not new things. These things are not new to us. And one of the most curious responses has been, we've been here before. We've known how to navigate these waters in times past. And so now is a time for like a Sankofa moment, where we go back and we fetch the lessons from the past and see how they apply to our current context. And we lean on the lessons of our ancestors, that we've seen these times before. It was their faith in God, and it was their dependence on one another as community. So again, one of the most surprising responses outside of fear, hopelessness, anxiety, helplessness, and all of that is, we've been here before, and we're going to be all right. Now that takes some work. That's going to take some work, and we've done this hard work before. But our faith in God and our leaning and depending on one another is gonna help us through.
For me, I echo the sentiments of Dr. Cedrick and Pastora Rossy, and one of the emotions that come up that I often see is this adaptation, but with a lot of tension, where the others, especially our younger generations, they adapt quickly, but they wrestle with this sense of guilt or pressure to stay true to their roots of what was the change before change. So this can cause a lot of identity conflict and isolation if taken to a more extreme measure. And so one of the ways that I've supported people through these experiences is I encourage a lot of cultural expression, especially when it comes to food. I've noticed that in like not just my generation, but like a lot of people that I surround myself with, they express themselves through food. I feel like food is the sixth love language that was never talked about, but is always there. And so to be able to express your grief, your loss through cooking, I've seen it so many times, and it's a sense of love and compassion, but also like I'm going through these changes, and all I can do is muster up energy to cook a meal that we can share together. It can come in the form of storytelling or dance or song. I find that whenever my family goes through some serious changes in life, we reminisce together at the table, just talking about, you remember that one time when this happened or when that happened, and think about the ways in which we've grown from, teenagers and kids to now adults who are navigating the world as who we are. And then even song and dance. My therapist told me one time, she was like, it feels like you place an immense amount of pressure on your shoulders, on your life to be able to perform this, and that for everybody else. When is the last time you danced for 5 minutes? I was like, that's a great question. That is a great question. I haven't done that. And so her homework for me at one point was to just go turn on a song and dance. And that was such a freeing experience for me. I looked like a goofball, but it was just me and God at that point, and I didn't care. And so to be able to kind of like have that opportunity to just express, whether through cooking, through talking, through dancing, was something that eased that tension a lot for me and for the communities I shared that with.
Oh, that's so good, Pastor Tao. Womanist writer Alice Walker wrote, "Hard times require furious dancing." And that is so key, right? How we move our bodies. Even Dr. Cedrick, as you were speaking, I was thinking about the memes that I've seen where they're like, all these things are going on and Black people are just line dancing right now, right? And so what are those things? I think dance and food across all cultures are so important, and we tend to lean towards in challenging times, for sure. Okay. I'm going to name our next piece here, and if there's anything else that others wanted to share before, you can get to that. But this next piece is any part of your story on navigating change, especially as a leader, serving others in times of transition and social change. And in that, whatever you would like to share briefly from your story, how you have cared for your mental health and well-being in the midst of that.
Well, here I go. My biggest challenge in the recent years was to have my mom diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And even though I was seeing the symptoms and I was expecting the diagnosis, it's a different thing to imagine and to hear the doctor said, yes, you need to see a neurologist because she has Alzheimer's. I decided at that time, and through that difficult time, first thing was prayer for the Lord to provide the strength. And then I decided that I will not be creating sad memories. I was recommended to go to groups and talk to people, and wherever I go or to any group I talk to, it was all sadness. And I said, no, I refuse to be sad about this. It is sad, but I can make it a memory, a good memory. My mom will not remember, but I will remember. So sometimes I get to her house and she says, who are you? And it hurts. And I jokingly say, I am a little girl that you got from a trash can. And then she reacts and goes, no, you are my daughter. Shut up, don't be stupid. So I make a reaction in her, and we both laugh at it. Sometimes she's all nervous and all anxious, and just say, Mom, let's go for a ride. And we just go around the block or go to my house and go back to her house. And then she's calm. We have been, and I am so grateful that my children have also take the same approach, creating memories. And we are all, you wouldn't say that we have this burden of this illness in our shoulders when we are together, because it's all laughter and music and singing and joking and reminiscing, remembering good moments. So prayer in my personal life to go through this, prayers, friendship, relying on each other, sharing the load, and having someone always to talk with. That has been.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
I'll chime in here. I have interestingly navigated shifting roles in ministry and even professionally, and that required of me to immediately reimagine strategies and very bluntly confront personal burnout as well. So moving from the frontline work into more strategic collaborative work, it has really taught me how to lead with collaboration, and taught me that leadership is not all about control, but rather collaboration. I have to be honest and say that that transition has surfaced insecurities that I had developed as a collegiate student, working on joint projects with individuals that, on the day of, show up and they don't have their part of the project done. But it has pushed me to expand, in all seriousness, my capability to trust others and to care for myself as well. So, transition has shaped how I show up, not just as a professional, but as a whole person, who gives myself enough grace and space to say that I'm still learning and I'm still growing as well. I cared for my mental health and try to care for my mental well-being, by understanding that it's not optional, it's essential, it's required. And that has required me to be very intentional about pausing and staying faithful and committed to my grounding practices, which is getting up in the morning and starting the morning, not scrolling on my phone, but with prayer and journaling. For me, showcasing that I have Jesus and I have therapy as well, and really silencing the internal noise with silence. I've also found hope with seeing value in saying no when I need to, and leaning into my trusted circles. So I would say, really leaning into rest being resistance, and specifically when burnout has been normalized. Now I will say, and I'll pass to one of our other panelists as well, but for me, I return often to the powerful words of Howard Thurman, that he spoke at the 1980 commencement at Spelman College, where he said, "Listen to the sound of the genuine within yourself." So I find that phrase to be extremely liberating for me, because again, with all of the internal noise, it invites me to find space past the noise and reckon with the truth that I am worthy, beloved, and capable of transformation as well. So would share that the common theme for me is transformation is sacred, and healing is not linear. It's a journey. It's a lifelong journey.
My gosh, I feel like you're talking to me. I'm looking at your screen. I'm like, oh, okay. But the thing that I love about this is like I feel like you spoke to my experience as well. Um, I took a huge leap of faith in stepping down in my role as associate pastor, and I'm now on track for becoming a chaplain. And um, in my mind, like I was like, this place has provided, security in some ways, and yet God is calling me to some new and different things. So do I stay here with what I feel is safe, whereas God has said, yes, this is the place where I called you once upon a time, or do I listen to the genuine calling of where God is asking me to go next? And I decided to do that. And it has been one of the scariest decisions I made um, to date as of yet. And it's also one of the most rewarding things that I could have given myself because it's something that I feel will continue to help me grow in ways that God is pushing me and asking me to do so. And so the way that impacts my well-being as a leader so far is I'm embracing this vulnerability a lot, where I'm very honest with my journey as it is, as raw as it is sometimes. So and I'm finding that being able to do that allows me to have experiences like this with you, Cameron, where like you're sharing something that hits me, and I'm going to share something that hits somebody else in the crowd. So it's this collective, like, once again. And so I love that we're able to be able to honor and cherish our own stories and be able to help inspire others to continue to write theirs or even take future risks if necessary. And then the other thing that was very vital to me as I entered this transition was community support. I sat down with my wife and I told her, I'm like, this is happening. And she basically told me, said, okay, I want you to pull out a piece of paper and I want you to list 5 people who are going to help you in this transition. And I want you to be specific on what you're asking them to do with you. And it could be a time length, it could be whatever. So I listed my people, and I had a food friend, somebody who could take me out and nourish my body. I had an exercise friend, somebody who could take me out and help me move. I had somebody like accountability friend, somebody who can call me on my BS and just say, "Hey, Tao, you said you were going to do this. It didn't happen. I want to remind you." I had a spiritual friend who continued to pray with me, read scripture, do devotional. And then I had a friend who was just somebody I could just vent to without judgment. What I didn't know was all 5 ended up doing all of that and above. And so to be able to have established that, and now they're still going with me throughout this journey, is very impactful for me. And I try to mirror and image that to others who are in the same boat.
So I will be fully transparent. Part of the reason I am going last is because I'm afraid of this question. Um, I so I have been here in Atlanta going on 4 years now. Um, Moving from where I came from, I did have a therapist. Um, about 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with depression, major depressive disorder and anxiety. So I had a therapist. I was on my meds. Moving here, I made sure that as soon as I got here, I found a therapist. But honestly, I cannot say over the past 6 months, I have done everything that I need to do to make sure that I am as well as I need to be. I hear Cameron talking about him developing the ability to say no. Um, I say yes more than I need to. I hear Pastor Tupua talking about his accountability partners and exercise partners. I don't exercise the way that I need to. I know this. Um, and so I am um, I'm currently experiencing what I want to call a reset for myself because I realize that even I'm realizing that um, one, the job that I have right now is that we all have. Being in leadership, being in ministry, um, these are difficult jobs. These can be lonely jobs. Um, And when you are certain type personalities, you feel like even though you know you cannot do it all by yourself, sometimes you take on more than you should. And I am identifying that for myself even now. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of where I am right now in my journey. I am thankful to have a very, very, very supportive wife um, who um, who prays, who will grab me, hold me, and pray. Um, Sometimes audibly, sometimes silently, and she will ask me which one I need. Sometimes I need the silent ones because I cannot, where I am, sometimes I cannot handle hearing the voice. Because from an emotional standpoint, sometimes it gets to be too much to know. Um, and so, um, yeah, that's where I am. I am in a space of rediscovery, and a space of reclaiming what I know are sound practices that are going to lead to a more healthy um, me. And yeah, that's where I am.
Thank you so much for that vulnerability. And my prayer is that people who are watching are also inspired in this moment to do a reset for yourselves as well, as you've listened to our panelists today talk about the things that have been helpful for them in navigating change and moving through being in these roles in ministry, that you take from that and you are encouraged and inspired in your own journey. The last thing that I'm going to ask from our panel is that if there are any resources that you wanted to share with those who are listening, if you have any links or any titles of anything that you would like to share that might help some of our viewers today and those who will be watching this later, might assist them in navigating change, I will ask you to put any of those things in the chat that people might be able to see it and copy it, and give just one last moment if there's anything that people that you on our panel may want to note as a final thought here. You don't have to. If there's anything that you like to say before we close, this would be the space to do so.
I would just add wonderful conversation, and I would encourage everyone to lean into frameworks that honor both science and the soul. So whether it's trauma-informed care models or mindfulness practices or peer-based recovery programs and models, community healing circles, whatever it may be, lean into resources and tools that are relational, responsive, and again, rooted in the power of lived experience. Um, I'm going to tell myself this as I even say this: give yourself permission to slow things down and move slowly, because it is important to remember that navigating change well, it isn't about speed, but it is about personal sustainability as well. So be kind to yourself and recognize that it's not a test of strength, but navigating change is a invitation to find deeper authenticity within yourself. So thank you.
I'd like to share the title of a book. It became my favorite book while I was working on my doctoral work. It's by Stanford. Matthew Stanford. It's called Grace for the Afflicted. This book, what Stanford does, he's a professor at the time. He was at Baylor. I'm not sure where he is now, but he basically took the DSM-5 and um, and looked at different biblical characters and diagnosed them according to the criteria in the DSM-5. And one of the reasons that book resonates for me. So first of all, it helped me. It helped give me another lens through which to look at Scripture from a mental health standpoint. But it also identifies. So it fosters hope because it identifies these individuals in the Bible not as these fairy tale fictional characters, but real people who were experiencing real mental health concerns, and yet God still used them. And so that piece was so vital for me, that and I think it would be for anyone who would pick up the book, to know that at the end of the day, it is not your whatever you're dealing with, your depression, your anxiety, your bipolar, your paranoia, your schizophrenia, whatever the condition is. It does not disqualify you from the grace of God, nor does it disqualify you from being used by God. And so, again, that became like my favorite book as it relates to mental health.
For me, the resource, it comes out of just lived experiences. I'm somebody who uh, has a lot of struggles with anxiety, and so grounding is something that deeply helps me. The two types of exercises that help me greatly are focusing on one object in the room for 5 minutes, and the other one is the 5 4 3 2 1 exercise. Another thing that greatly has helped me is more family dinners, um, whether that be with chosen family, with my biological family, or just my neighbors down the hall. Being able to sit at the table and talk amongst one another, it feels as though I've gone through a session myself with my therapist in some ways. So it really fills the cup in a lot. Um, Another thing that my therapist has told me is to celebrate the small wins because they always matter. So for me, as an anxious person, I created to do not a list, a book every day. And my book, I tell you, it never gets done. But if I'm able to accomplish at least one out of the 500 things that I've set out to do, I celebrate that one, because to dwell on the other 499 is just gonna be detrimental to me. And so I really try and see the cup half full when I'm able to celebrate that. And then speaking of full, I try to do things that are self-full. So there's the word selfless, and when we do things that are selfless, it depletes from us. But when we do things that are self-full, it keeps continuing to fill our cups in miraculous ways. So for me, that has come in the form of hobbies like swimming, like singing in a choir, and most recently, I've been trying to study voiceover acting. So yeah, things that are fun, get me out of the routine of career, of family, of adulting, and into something that brings joy to my heart.
For me, the strategies and resources that I can offer is pray, meditate, acknowledge each part of your body. Why is hurting? Why is heavy? And say to yourself, it will be all right. Because it will be. At the moment, we may think that we are immersed in this deep well of negativity or bad situations, spiritual trauma, physical trauma, or emotional trauma. Whatever it is, you will overcome it. And then you will look behind. Write in your journal how you feel today and continue writing for a month and practicing singing, reading, or remembering a verse. For me, is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through him. And that is my motto. But also, I breathe, but in my breathing, I pray. And I have been practicing this for years. And believe me, it gives you very good results. Have or join or create your own book club. Even if you just read one chapter a week or a month, and you don't have to go to a fancy place with your sister, your cousin, your friend, your coworker, even if it's a book club for 2 people only. But share that, and surround yourself with people that encourage you, not the people that bring you down. Love them, but from afar. Okay, I love you. Bye. Nice to see you. But be with the people that encourage and lift you up. And believe me, you will create resilience, and you will go through it, and you will come on the other side a champion. God bless you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much, Pastor Rossy. And one thing I want to note that you mentioned with singing, as we know, when we sing and we have that vibration in our throats, that activates the vagus nerve, which helps our parasympathetic nervous system activate. So it's going to help you to calm yourself in moments of anxiety. And so there's all this scientific work that's happening behind the scenes, scientific and spiritual, because I know that God did not make any mistake in how our bodies were designed and the ways that simple rituals and activities can activate peace within us. And so we pray that you all who are watching practice these things. I want to thank our panelists in our closing, Pastora Rossy, Pastor Tau, Dr. Cedrick, and Reverend Cameron. Thank you all for sharing today. So much rich wisdom and experience. We are blessed by your work and so honored to receive your wisdom and your professional expertise. I pray that you all are blessed in the work you continue to do in this world, in your communities, to keep us well and to keep us safe. And I pray that all who have joined us today watching, and those who watch later on our website and our YouTube, that you take the wisdom and the tools forward as you navigate change and support others who are navigating changes. Please note, everyone, that this webinar is being recorded. It will be available for future viewing on our website, nbacares.org. So please do go and watch it again. Write down your notes if you weren't taking notes this time around. One of the ways you can stay informed of our work and be involved is to sign up for our newsletter at nbacares.org/newsletter. There will be some check boxes you can mark to let us know you're interested in our mental health and wellness topics. And if you would like to further support our work, we welcome your financial support and are ever grateful for these blessings. And you can donate online at nbacares.org/donate. Before we go, I want to make sure that you know to join us this upcoming Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern for the airing of our Mental Health Sunday service and our live talk back. And if you are in the Atlanta area and can join us for our service recording on Saturday, May 17th at 11 a.m., we look forward to seeing you at Amplify Christian Church. Also on May 28th, I will close our mental health month out with our 30-minute lunch soul care break at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And I hope to see you all there. As we leave this space today, I pray that you remember to center your mental health and wellness and be supported by a community rooted in sustainable care. May you find strength in the face of uncertainty and courage in the midst of change. May resilience rise within you like a steady flame, lighting your way even when the path is unclear. May you care for yourselves and one another with gentleness and compassion, honoring every step of the journey, both the stillness and the storm. And may you always remember that God wants you to be well, not just so you can serve, but because God loves you and sees you as good. Grace, peace, and healing be with you always. Amen. Thank you for joining us today.